Thought I'd show you how the vampire counts of Sylvania play here in Call of Warhammer, Rage of the Dark Gods. So, undead vampires against... Let's see, let's take one of the factions that are confirmed for Total War Warhammer. Yeah, let's have the vampires against the dwarfs here. So the vampires have access to some unique units, like the extremely weak zombies. Very cheap, very expendable. They also have access to some of the best infantry units in the game, namely the Blood Dragons, some of the best cavalry, the Blood Dragon Knights. They are, however, very expensive and limited, so you won't have too many of them. They will be used at the most important parts of the battlefield. And I'm going to be using my Blood Dragon on foot, since I'm fighting dwarfs. Then I'm going to have 6 zombies for missile and arrow fodder. I'm going to have some 4 cheap skeleton archers. Then my killing power is going to be made up of Drakenhof Guard and Grave Guard. I'm also going to have some spirit hosts in here. And for cavalry, the Vampire Black Knights are going to be a good choice. Cheaper than the Knights of the Black Grail. I'll bring 1 Blood Dragon Knight and 2 Vampire Black Knights. So I spent about 30,000 making that army. So now I have no skeleton warriors. Maybe I should have some skeleton warriors as well. Create a slightly less overpowered army. Yeah, skeleton warriors is going to make it easier to illustrate one of the strengths of the undead as well. So 3 skeleton warriors. Let's have 4 skeleton warriors. So now I've spent about 22,000, slightly less. The dwarfs can spend a bit more than I can, since they are controlled by the AI. So we're going to have a Great Beard General. We're going to have 4 Dwarf Warriors. 4 Dwarf Thunderers. They are going to get an Organ Gun. And already they are close to me in the funds they've spent. So one of the cool things about the Undead is you can bring many units that are fairly cheap, but their combat potential is very poor. So let's give the dwarves some elite units as well. Longbeards with access, standard longbeards, a unit of hammerers, and quite enough for the dwarves, I think, since they are that much stronger. But just to illustrate this, I'm going to give the dwarves a full stack of units. So the rest of the units are going to be dwarf axes. 4 dwarf axes, and yeah, let's have 5 dwarf axes. And my undead army, very, very weak here compared to the dwarven army. Let's see how it goes. Now, the good thing about fighting dwarves with the undead is that the dwarves don't have any cavalry that they can use to target my vulnerable units, which is good. It allows me to control the battlefield easier. So I'm going to have zombies in loose formation in the center. Just a massive line of zombies in loose formation. The shambling dead, the freshly dead. Then behind them, I'm going to have my skeleton archers in a very thin line. I want to minimize the effect of the organ gun. Safely in the rear, I'm going to put my, my grave guard and my Drakenhoffs. They're going to be in the center, directly behind the zombies. And I'm going to keep my skeletons also fairly spread out here. My cavalry I want to keep far away from the dwarf artillery for the time being. So the cavalry goes way out on the flanks, but not far enough that my infantry can't support them. My blood dragons there. So this is how the undead army looks to battle. And one thing to keep in mind is that zombies are very, very slow shambling things. So they're going to spend significant time closing even this small gap here. So I'm just going to walk them forward and have them eat missile fire. Maybe I should run them actually. They're not going to be doing a lot of running anyway. You can see just how slow they are shambling around. But my skeleton archers are in range already, and they're killing some thunderers here. So yeah, quite a few dead thunderers already. And you can see the organ gun is wreaking havoc on my lines. So maybe I should spread out a bit more. And I want my skeletons as the second line, but they are faster than the zombies. So I'm going to have to keep them behind at all times. And these zombies are going to be great for just pushing back the thunderers a bit. And here the dwarves are already starting to close in. The dwarf axes are charging. You won't be able to catch any units with the zombies. Any unit is going to be able to run away from the zombies fairly easily. But there are a lot of zombies to kill for the dwarves. And it's fine, the thunderers can fire here. And you can see they've almost destroyed that graveguard, so I'm going to send that graveguard in. And I've lost quite a few blood dragons as well. So what I'm going to do now with my skeletons is I'm going to start flanking with my skeletons. Because the zombie units are so big, they are very useful for creating big blobs. Now we're going to send in my faster skeleton warriors here. They're going to sort of intermingle with the zombies and be a bit protected by them. And I can't stay at range much longer here because of all of the fire. So I'm going to send up the rest of my more dangerous units. But as you can see though, my zombies, they won't break. And because they are in loose formation now, it's going to take a significant amount of time for the superior dwarfs to defeat even my lowly zombies. And that allows me the time to send in dangerous units like Graveguard and Drakenhof Guard. Just send them right in through the zombies. Now of course a human opponent could take measures to stop this from happening as easily. Now my cavalry is free for a charge against the Longbeards. These zombies not getting many kills, but they are taking wounds that could be applied to my other units. So the undead army here is very slow, very methodical. Charge the Longbeards in the rear. Decent enough charge. Pull away. Send in some skeletons. And now I can move my archers a bit closer, I guess. Get at the organ gun with my cavalry. Blood dragons, very dangerous. The problem is that my blood dragons took a lot of damage from shooting. Charge from my skeletons into these Longbeards. And I'm a bit worried that I don't have enough killing units now, because the dwarves are doing a number on my units. But what you'll notice is that my units aren't breaking. And that's a trait of the undead. They are not breaking from combat. They are fighting down to the last man or zombie or whatever you have. So let's find a juicy target. These dwarf axes should break. And most of the undead units scare as well. So that isn't too noticeable with the dwarves, because dwarves have such great morale. But against other factions like orcs and goblins, the scare effect is very useful. And you can see the dwarfs are starting to break now in the center. So I'll just systematically give these longbeards and the other units that are engaged, just give them a few charges. Pull out more cavalry. I don't want to lose too much cavalry here. The thunderers should die. You can see some dwarf warriors are starting to break through here. Pull away. Charge back in. Let's give let's see, one dwarf axe fighting. Pull away the heavy cavalry. Charge into the thunderers. Pull out the cavalry. Managed to break that unit, and now I'm going to send my grave guard in against the dwarf axes together with the zombies. And you can see for how long this fight has gone on. There are still skeletons, still zombies, because it takes a long time to kill that many undead. Kill undead. Destroy that many undead, I should say. The Drakenhof guard, free. My skeleton archers are still firing. My general is about to bite the dust here. Send the Drakenhof guard into the Greatbeards. The Grave Guard as well. But I am starting to break through where the general can't support with his morale boosting effect. So this means I can keep going, focus fire on the Dwarven warriors. The Longbeards take a charge to the face from the Vampire Black Knights. You see the dwarves go flying. Pull out those guys. Charge the dwarf warriors. And start surrounding the enemy general. So the dwarf warriors are broken. Another charge on the Longbeards here. Let's just shoot these thunderers so they don't come back. And although I don't have many units left, these units just will not break. So that's the end of those dwarf axes. Longbeards with axes, focus fire on them. And when my skeletons are out of ammunition, I can use them to charge in somewhere as well. So Longbeards getting hit. Over here we have some dwarf axes getting hit. And the Greatbeards are fighting very well here. They are extremely tanky units. I'm going to give them a little cavalry charge as well. Here we have a unit of Longbeards. Just keep charging, and that's what's cool about having units that don't break. You can really focus on using your hammer units, so to speak. You can focus on using your hammer units to kill, because it doesn't really matter what position the zombies are in. They're going to be fighting for a long time anyway, even though they are in really bad positions. Let's see, here's one Longbeard remaining. Not anymore. Then I can charge the, let's see here. There are some thunderers here, but they're just firing on my skeleton archers. Over here there's a fair number of dwarves left. Still fighting the skeleton archers. And this unit of Greatbeards is completely surrounded. Devastating charge by the Vampire Black Knights. Give the general another charge. Pull out that cavalry unit. These Thunderers are still firing, so I should get them off the field. So they don't snipe my general or something. And that's the end of the Thunderers. Now I can charge the Dwarf Warriors. I think that was the enemy general dead there. I pull out the Vampire Black Knights. The enemy general got ganged up on. So now it's just a matter of running down the last remaining dwarf units. Which shouldn't be a problem. Charge the Longbeards. That should be the end of that unit, and victory. Heroic victory by the undead there. I lost a lot of men, I lost more men than the dwarves deployed. My army was much cheaper, and if you look at the kills, the zombies fought the entire time, they hardly killed anything. But since they don't run, they allow the rest of the army to work much better. So the Drakenhof Guard and Grave Guard takes care of some important units. The Skeleton Warriors don't do much better than the zombies, but a little better. The Vampire Black Knights basically win the battle here by going for rear charges and finishing off units. So that's what I like about the Vampire counts, the way they have these cheap throwaway units that can be resurrected and create tar pits for the enemy. Also, you can push very effectively towards a skirmish line because you have many throwaway units that, if they are engaged, any unit is going to spend a long time fighting that unit. So I quite like the Vampire counts, and I look forward to playing them in Total War Warhammer Strength and Honor.